Okay, so this time we are working on Gauss Seidal method, and they're very much similar but a little bit different. So the starting is same. I am solving first equation for x1, second equation for x2, third equation for x3, fourth equation for x4. x1 is equal to 6 plus x2 minus 2x3, and then I'm dividing by 10. So again, how I am getting these? So I will move these terms on the other side. So that will take plus x2, 6 plus x2 minus 2x3, and then I will divide by 10 to make x1 free. Okay. Now when I am solving this equation for x2, I will do the same thing. I will move x1 and then this x3 and then the x4 on the other side, and then divide both sides by 11. So that will give us x2 is equal to 25 plus x1 plus x3 minus 3x4 dividing by 11. x3 is equal to negative 11 plus or minus 2x1 plus x2 plus x4, and then we are dividing by 10. Okay, x4 is equal to 15 minus 3x2 plus x3. So what we are doing again, we are moving these terms on the other side, keeping x4 on the left side, and then divide by 8. So that will make x4 is equal to 15 minus 3x2 plus x3, and then divide by 8. Okay. So what is happening, what is the difference between Gauss Seidal method and Gauss Jacobi method is, in Jacobi method, we start x1, x2, x3, x4. All of them are 0. Right? So I'm still starting, all of them are 0. Now, what happens in Jacobi method when I'm calculating the next step? I use the values, all the values from the previous step. Sorry guys. Now in this one, when I am calculating the next step, I will use a value immediately when I have calculated. So let's see what will happen. When I am using x1, x2, x3, x4, all of them are 0. My x1 is equal to 0.6. Right? So when I am calculating x2, I already have the new x1, but I don't have x3 and x4. So I am using the old x3 and x4. So look at here what will happen here. 25 plus x1, which is 0.6, then 0 and 0. So 25 plus 0.6 divided by 11. Let me see what is that. 25 plus 0.6, and then we are dividing by 11. So that will be 2.3272 something. Okay. Now when I am calculating x3, okay, in Gauss Jacobi method, we use all of them are 0 because in previous value, in previous row, all of them are 0. In Jacobi method, when we are calculating Jacobi method, these x1, x2, x4 will be 0 because in previous step they are 0. But now in Gauss Seidal method, we said we will use a value immediately after it is calculated. So when I am calculating x3, I will use the new x1 and x2, and since I don't have a new value for x1, I will use the old x4. Okay, so let's see what will happen then. When I'm calculating x3, I will have negative 11 plus or minus 2 times the new x1 plus new x2 plus old x4, and then we will divide by 10. So that will give us negative 11 minus 2 times my new x1 is 0.6, then plus x2 is 2.3272, and then my x4 is 0, and then I will divide everything by 10. So that will give me negative 0.98728. 0.98728. Okay, now what will happen when I am calculating x4? Look at here, when we have calculated Gauss Jacobi method. Here we have used all the previous value. Gauss Jacobi method always use all the previous value. So what we used is x10, x20, x30, x40 in this step. But now in Gauss Seidal method, we said we are going to use all the values which are already calculated, use them immediately. So when you will use your calculate your x4, you will use the new x1, new x2 and new x3, not the previous x1, x2 and x3. So what will be my value in this one? 15 minus 3 times x2, which is 2.3272, plus x3, which is minus 0.98728, and then we are dividing by 8. Okay, so I found 0.87889 if I have not made any mistake on that one. Okay, so let me see. I have also completed the calculation in Microsoft Excel, and let me see what is Microsoft Excel giving us. Okay, so let me share my screen with you guys. Okay. So this one, the first one was the Gauss Jacobi method, which is the previous method, where when we calculate, suppose I have started with all the values 0, then in second step I used all the previous values. So in second step I used x1, x2, x3, x4, all of them are 0. Right? Now what is happening in this one? This one is Gauss Seidal method, which is the new method. We are still starting with the same x10, x20, x30, x40. Then in the second step, when I am calculating second step, when I am calculating x1, I am using all the previous values, right? And then when I am calculating x2, I have already calculated new x1, so I will use new x1 and old x3, x4. And then when I am calculating x3, I will use new x1, x2 and old x4. When I will calculate x4, I will use all the new x1, x2, x3. So that will speed up my calculation. So you guys can see this one is giving us a more better answer than the previous one, which is saying x1 is very close to 1, x2 is very close to 2, x3 is very close to negative 1, and x4 is very close to 1. So if you check both of them, this one is faster, giving us more better solution, and you need less calculation. Okay, so I'm stopping sharing on this one and going to the next problem for Gauss Seidal method. Okay, so let me go to the next one. Okay, so this one is again, you will solve x1 for first equation, x2 from second equation, x3 third equation, x4 fourth equation. Okay, so what is x1 then? X1 is equal to negative 5 plus x2 plus x3 minus 2x4, and then we divide by 5. x2 is equal to 14 plus x1 minus 4x3 plus x4 divide by 7. x3 equal to 1 minus 2x1 minus x2 minus x4 divide by negative 6. x4 is equal to 4 minus x1 minus x2 divide by 3. Okay, so we have x1, x2, x3 and x4. Right now we are starting. The starting is same. First step, you will say all of them are zeros. Okay, so I have all of them are 0, and I started calculating my second step. So when I am calculating x1, I don't have any new value. I am using all the previous values from the previous step, x1 0, x2 0, x3 0, x4 0. So that will give me a negative 1, okay, because x2, x3, x4 all of them are 0. Negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. Now interesting thing is when I am calculating x2, I have already calculated new x1, so I will use new x1 and old x3, x4. Okay, so 14 minus 1, 14 plus negative 1, and x3, x4 are 0. So that will be 13 over 7, 13 over 7, 1.8571 something, 1.8571 something. Okay, now we have calculated already x1 and x2, so when we are calculating x3, we will use the new x1 and x2 and old x4. So 1 minus 2 times x1, so that will be 1 plus 2 actually. 1 plus 2 minus x2, so 1.8571, and then x4 will be 0 and divide by negative 6. So that is giving me a negative, if I did not made any mistakes, so let me see, 1 minus 2 times negative 1, so that will be 1 plus 2 minus 1.8571, and then x4 is 0. We are dividing by negative 6, so this is giving me negative 1 minute. This is giving me, did I made any mistake? X1 is negative 1. Okay, so let me check. X1 is negative 1. 14 minus 1, and then x3 and x4 is 0. Okay, so I got it. And then when I am calculating x3, I will use these two and previous x4, and then when I will calculate this one, I will use all the new values, right? So when I have calculated this step, I will do the same thing on the next step. So again, I have completed the calculation using Microsoft Excel, and let me see what we got in Microsoft Excel. But before that, I want to check when I'm calculating the first one, C11, D11 minus, okay. 1.8571. Mm-hmm. 1. So give me 1 minute, then I will show you guys the calculation for this technique. Okay, so let me share my screen, and so that's it.